Hello, everyone. It's my great pleasure to give this keynote speech for the International Conference on Cybersecurity, Privacy, and Networking. My name is Justin Zhang. I'm a professor at the University of North Florida. I'm also the editor-in-chief for Journal of Global Information Management. I want to thank the committee for inviting me to give this speech. Today, I'm going to talk about AI-enabled knowledge management, redesigning knowledge workers' roles and processes. So here is the agenda for my speech. First, I will give a brief introduction to this research topic, and then I will discuss the relevant literature. Part 3 will be based on AI-enabled knowledge management. Part 4 will focus on the discussion of the findings and their managerial implications. The last part will conclude the entire speech with future research directions. So first, I'm going to briefly talk about this background of this research. So we all know that AI has been changing the landscape of business competitions by enabling different kind of business processes within organizations. This has changed the nature of work, organizational processes, and employee engagement. Therefore, AI has been considered as one of the key building blocks for advancing the field of knowledge management. In particular, AI has greatly facilitated the acquisition, processing, and application of knowledge. AI has helped knowledge workers in their decision-making processes. Recent study has explored the implementation of emerging AI technologies for knowledge management. Because of the growing importance of AI in organizations, so recent studies have looked at big data analytics, machine learning, and intelligent agents, and many other emerging technologies in terms of their roles in knowledge management. However, most of them focus on the technical aspects of AI. Very few of them have investigated the managerial implications of AI's role in facilitating knowledge sharing and learning in organizations. Against this backdrop, we attempt to address this gap by exploring the management issues of using AI in supporting knowledge workers' major KM activities. In terms of the relevant literature, we look at recent studies from the following four aspects. First one is the KM framework and the role of AI for KM and AI in organizations and AI trailblazer companies. In terms of KM framework and the impact of AI in this framework, AI has four primary functions: learning, understanding, reasoning, and interacting in general. AI has also three significant kinds of support for business needs, according to Davenport and Ronanke in 2018. So these three types of AI include automating business processes, gaining insights through data analysis, and engaging with customers and employees. So sometimes we call these three terms, which are broad business process automation, cognitive insights, and cognitive engagement. Recent studies also looked at the functions of AI in enabling KM from a lot of the technical perspectives which we have mentioned before. So these are the recent studies However, only a few of them have explored the role of AI in supporting knowledge workers. So for these studies, they focus either on a specific business domain or a particular aspect of KM, which is not comprehensive. The interaction between AI and humans is crucial for exploring the relationship between AI and knowledge workers. According to Wilson and Daughtry, humans complement machines through training, explaining, and sustaining. And AI gives humans superpower by amplifying, interacting, and embodying. So in this perspective, AI helps human, and humans help AI as well. So they mutually benefit each other. Let's look at some of the AI trailblazer companies. So in the KM World magazine, many representative companies are ranked in terms of how they create and use AI technologies. So they were identified as the AI trailblazer companies. So this word cloud is based on the top 50 AI trailblazer companies. So you can look at some of the keywords include global enterprise, platform, technology, database, service providers, process analysis, solutions, etc. So they categorize the top features of those AI trailblazer companies. So we also looked at the focuses of these companies from KM perspective. So on the right-hand side, you see the KM focus in these top 50 AI trailblazer companies, such as information, knowledge, processes, create, digital, enable users, data, human, etc. So some of the major characteristics include AI can help automate repetitive or low-value processes. AI facilitates data discovery and search applications. AI allows people to be connected, enables applications, robots, and information to foster applications. AI also helps harness collective knowledge to empower people and the team. Finally, AI helps amplify human intelligence to increase productivity and security. So these are the common characteristics of those top 50 AI trailblazer companies from the KM perspective. Based on the literature review, so our target is to develop an AI-enabled KM framework. So we are going to accomplish this through the analysis within the framework and through redesigning the roles and the processes of knowledge workers. First of all, to analyze this framework, we synthesize three relevant frameworks to explore the role of AI in KM in this research. The following are the three relevant frameworks. First is in terms of the three types of AI based on the literature. So we term these three types as task simplification, stakeholder connection, and pattern recognition. So they correspond to Davenport's three roles of AI, which are business process automation, cognitive insights, and cognitive engagement. So we just try to rename those three types of AI in this research. So the second framework is to consider three major KM activities, include A, knowledge creation and acquisition, B, knowledge sharing and transfer, C, knowledge learning and application. The third framework focuses on the interactions between AI and human. So as we mentioned, AI and humans benefit each other. AI enhances humans and humans help AI to further improve its performance. So based on these three frameworks, we actually consolidate these three frameworks and we develop this matrix to analyze the role of AI in knowledge management activities. So you can see the vertical dimension looks at three types of AI. Type 1 is task simplification, which is to simplify and automate repetitive tasks with robots and AI-based agents. Type 2 is stakeholder connection, which enhances the bond with primary stakeholders such as employees and customers with natural language processing and intelligent agents. Type 3 is pattern recognition, which identifies patterns and extracts hidden knowledge from massive amounts of data with advanced AI algorithms. The horizontal dimension looks at three types of knowledge management activities. The first type of activity is knowledge creation and acquisition. The second type of activities is knowledge sharing and transfer. The third type of knowledge management activities is knowledge learning and application. So then we can have these 9 quadrants. We can have these 9 cells. So the first in terms of type 1, we look at these 3 types of knowledge management activities. So from the perspective of task simplification, AI systems solicit knowledge from experts to develop new content. AI also can enable search or recommendation systems which can match users with providers to enable sharing and transfer. AI recommendation systems will match learners with topics of their interest to facilitate learning and applications. From the second type of AI perspective, so robot advisors will support clients in their complex tasks, dealing with customers or employee service requests. For knowledge sharing and transfer, some examples like chatbots can monitor the sentiment of customers to provide real-time feedback to customer specialists. For knowledge learning and application, staff members can learn from the analysis of prior customers' chat transcripts to improve service levels. For the third type of AI, in terms of knowledge creation and acquisition, AI algorithms can extract hidden knowledge from unstructured data and outliers. From the perspective of knowledge sharing and transfer, deep AI systems can discover relationships between people and the projects, documents, and other team members. Finally, from the knowledge learning application perspectives, AI systems can monitor the learning outcomes and use them to create new knowledge. So these are the examples of AI support for KM activities based on the framework. So next, we want to redesign the roles and the processes for knowledge workers based on the AI-powered framework. So we are going to look at these 3 aspects: use case analysis, traditional knowledge management system, the AI-enabled knowledge management systems. So first of all, so this use case diagram demonstrates the traditional knowledge management systems. So we see the ovals represent the use cases. So here we identify the 8 major use cases in the traditional knowledge management system, include register update expertise, learn from the repository, capture and store shared knowledge, match learners with providers. On the second column, we see the additional 4 use cases, such as search the repository for knowledge, deposit knowledge in the repository, share or learn knowledge with colleagues, and search the directory for experts. Knowledge workers include learners and providers use these knowledge management systems use cases to engage in sharing and learning activities, and what they have shared and learned will be stored in the repository for future knowledge workers to search, to look at, to apply. So this is what a traditional KMS function. So next, if we introduce AI functions, we can enrich the existing use cases. So you can see the purple colored ovals represent the AI-enabled use cases in the AI-enabled KMS. So these are the new features that enabled by AI, such as intelligently scan and sense needs and settings, acquire knowledge from external sources, acquire knowledge from workers, push relevant knowledge to learners, and solicit knowledge from providers. So based on the intelligent scan and sense of the needs of workers and the surrounding environments, the AI-enabled knowledge management systems will intelligently interact with potential knowledge providers to solicit knowledge from them. They can also push relevant knowledge automatically to the potential learners. So this is because of the unique capabilities of AI. So AI has made this possible to enrich the traditional knowledge management systems. So knowledge workers, including learners and providers, they can use these enhanced features to better engage in learning and sharing. So the additional features will significantly improve the performance of the traditional KMS. So next, let's take a look at the implications of this this framework and of the enhanced use cases of in those AI-enabled knowledge management systems. So here you can see on this figure we identified 4 groups of knowledge workers. So we name these 4 groups as frontline staff, client-facing managers, process improvement experts, and the top-level managers. So these 4 types of knowledge workers, they correspond to different levels of activity that may be supported by AI. So you can see in this cubic we have these 3-dimensional measures, include content, process, and engagement. So they correspond to 3 types of AI we mentioned. So what we can infer from this cube is a single type of AI system may be insufficient to support the increasingly complex nature of knowledge workers' activities, manifested in process engagement and content-based systems. So you can see FLS means frontline staff. They typically engage in those activities require strong support for stakeholder engagement and process automation. So AI can actually support, so they will require AI system to support their daily activities in these 2 dimensions. CFM represent client-facing managers. So they are at the intersection of high requirements for content and engagement. So which means they will need a KMS to support their daily activities. from the perspective of stakeholder engagement and the other dimension, which is content-based kind of support. And PIE represent process improvement experts. They are at the intersection of process and content. So they will require KMS to support these two dimensions of KM activities. Top-level managers are dealing with the most complicated tasks on a daily basis. That's why they will require the KMS to support all three types of activities in these three dimensions. So therefore, we recommend that a tailored AI system should be developed to support knowledge workers in their unique roles and processes, depending on the degree of intensity in these three dimensions. So in conclusion, we actually study this KN framework through AI-enabled kind of a perspective. Our study makes a contribution to the existing literature by classifying the different functions of AI and how they can contribute to KN activities. Our research analyzes and summarizes the changes in the use cases of AI-enabled knowledge management system. So we compared the AI-powered enhanced features of use cases in the AI-enabled KMS in comparison to the traditional KMS, and we pointed out those enhanced use cases that can be accomplished by AI-enabled features. So based on our findings, we also explore diversified knowledge workers' roles and processes. So we categorized 4 types of knowledge workers, and we identified what type of KMS or AI systems will be needed to support their critical activities in these 3 major dimensions: content, processes, and engagement. So currently our work is still at the conceptual level. So the future research, we plan to include some of the additional dimensions like biases and privacy issues, and as well as the incentives in the existing framework. So we want to look at how the bias will actually make a difference in different types of knowledge workers in terms of the support of AI. We also want to investigate the role that incentives can play in further enhancing knowledge management and the specifics of AI technologies. So this concludes my speech. Thank you very much for your attention.